People who watch things on the internet. There's so much going on right now, it blows my mind. Number one, this is my 100th video. 100! I don't have a lot of things to do in my spare time. I make videos. Anyways, it's kind of awesome. I was thinking I wanted to do something ultra special for the 100th video, but I couldn't really think of anything, so here we are in my car, which also makes it a fun on the 405, because I'm driving home on the 405, because there's traffic and this guy is getting up behind me. So it's a combo 100th video, fun on the 405, and also it's our Doctor Who review video. It's like the trifecta. So if you haven't done so already, please go subscribe up there. The last Doctor Who review down there, and over there the last Do or Do Not video where we review Portal 2. Awesome. And we'll get more video game stuff going on later. Changing lanes. So much to talk about. In terms of Doctor Who. We had to take a week off because of the whole BBC America fiasco, and I don't like downloading things illegally, and I try not to, so I thought I would just wait, which has been so hard because there's so many spoilers. Spoilers. People on Twitter, spoilers. Come on. And actually today, because the finale, the mid-season finale, A Good Man Goes to War, aired last Saturday in the UK, so some people in the US have watched it, and there's talk, I guess, about some things that are supposed to happen in the future when it comes to Doctor Who, and I've been trying my best not to pay attention, but I've seen things that I wish I could take back, or at least wish I could have seen after I had seen The Good Man Goes to War. But I don't think it's completely ruined. I think it's just some stuff that I don't want to be thinking about yet, so it's not completely spoiled, it's just annoying. So let's talk about this episode called The Living Flesh, I believe was the title. I can never remember titles in these videos. There's a lot to talk about, and let's just say first off, I really enjoyed this episode. And, you know, spoiler. It's a three-parter, which I think will turn into a four-parter, because I'm pretty sure the end of the mid-season is a cliffhanger. And we all knew that Rebel Flesh was going to be a two-parter into The Living Flesh, or Almost People. Yes, Rebel Flesh was a two-parter going into Almost People. But no one, I don't think, not very many people saw that it was going to be continued at the end of that one, which therefore makes it a three-parter at least going into A Good Man Goes to War, and then potentially a four-parter, which may be a first in Doctor Who, going into the mid-season opener later this fall. I don't even know that they've announced that date yet. So a lot of things to talk about. Again, like I said, a lot of things to talk about. The episode, I think, is great. They really played up on, you know, this whole doppelganger, the gangers, and the real people having to struggle. They're fighting, and then eventually, you know, we end in a resolve that, you know, they can work together, and that it's this petty thing. The one thing that bummed me out, and I talked about in the last review, was I really liked the questions of ethics and morality that were brought up about gangers and humans and stuff like that, and they only slightly touched on it. And I guess when I first watched the episode, I wasn't so concerned that I was missing this dialogue that was happening about morality and stuff. But then when I thought about it at the end, I was like, yeah, they pretty much dropped the ball on that. The real big throwback there is when the whole thing after the guy dies, who has the son whose birthday it is that day, and the new ganger dad kind of takes over that life, who's kind of touching on the fact that maybe gangers can't really embody the human spirit and go on. But loved, and I think a lot of the reason that I was not as concerned was I loved the fact that Matt Smith got to play against Matt Smith. Like, I don't think, as much as I love Tennant, I don't know that he would have been able to pull off some of the great things that happened between Matt Smith and Matt Smith. Like, there were just some amazing moments. And, you know, this episode was just chock full of misdirection, left and right. From the whole switching the shoes to the throwing the screwdriver back and forth, which is just absurd. I don't know why there was one screwdriver and who ended up with it, and why there was another one inside of the TARDIS at the end. Anyways, but this whole idea that we get to in the end of the episode, that the Doctor knew about the flesh ahead of time, and that's why he brought them to that island to deal with the flesh, is very, very interesting, in the sense that that paints a very large picture. And one of the things that Rudy and Liz and Timey-Wimey talked about was the fact that this is the most deceptive and withholding we've ever seen the Doctor. Like, he left out key information. At times, we had thought, you know, the Doctor just kind of doesn't want to give up all the information because it's personal, it's about him. That's fine, but he deliberately withholds information from Rory and Amy that affects their choices, which is not super characteristic of the Doctor, which brings in this whole other question about trusting the Doctor, trusting your Doctor, and what the Doctor really is up to when it comes to the rest of the season and the through storylines. And then obviously there's the thing about Amy actually being pregnant, and the fact that Amy is in a white room with Eye Patch Lady, and she's just been transcending into her flesh ganger body. Those just raise some very, very big questions. And the fact that I think I'm not sure, because we realize there's a second ganger of the Doctor, but we never see kind of the Doctor interface with the flesh more than just kind of touching it in Rebel flesh. He doesn't submerge himself. He's not in a one of the Avatar suit things. So speculation time. I have a sneaking suspicion that both of the Doctors in this episode are gangers. I'm going to let that hang for a moment. That not only is Amy a ganger, and Doctor blows her up in what he says is the humane way to do it, and he knows about the flesh enough to isolate it, but that he himself is a ganger, and because he's in the TARDIS, or because he now knows more about how to destroy flesh humanely, he can prevent himself from being destroyed when he destroys Amy inside the TARDIS, versus when Ganger Doctor and Ganger Jane, or whoever it is, destroy Ganger Jen, who's in that creepy monster form. So, which may lead up into how the Doctor ends up dying without the Doctor dying in episode 1 of this season. But from spoiler, well, no, I'm not even gonna go there, which could have some effects about what happens in the next episode in A Good Man Goes to War. So it could be conceivably possible that the Doctor has already split himself, and I had an interesting theory about how that kind of explains the age difference in the Doctors in episode 1 of this season, and how the Doctor from the future, who was 209 years old, and then when the Doctor shows back up in the cafe, is only 206 years old. So having a third, at this point, Doppel Doctor could explain that age difference and why he was able to die and not regenerate. So many questions. What is interesting here to start thinking about is, I guess the Doctor Who Confidential that aired after this episode, Stephen Moffat made a quip about how long Amy had been a ganger. And apparently his response was, she has been a ganger for this entire season, but made no comment about whether or not she was a ganger prior to the beginning of season 6. I have a very sneaking suspicion that there is a lot to do with the end of season 5, the beginning of the universe, Amy being locked in the Pandorka's box, and even going back to the beginning of season 5 when the Doctor shows up and there's a crack in little Amy Pond's wall. I would like to be right on this, that this is all going to go back to when the Doctor met Amy when she was a child, the worm thing that was inside the extra bedroom inside of her house, the reference to the silence that the worm makes back there. We went back and looked at some of the earlier episodes on Netflix just to kind of see if we could piece any of this together and if any of it made sense, because very clearly Moffat is telling us that a lot of the things that have happened in the past are directly leading up to things that will happen in the future. So supposedly, if we look closely enough, there are clues hidden back in episodes in season 5, and presumably things that happen in episode 6 or season 6. And one thing that I did go back and look at is when Amy encounters the silence in the bathroom of the White House, something is very interesting said to her. The silence tells her you're going to tell the doctor what he needs to know and what he doesn't need to know. And at that time, when I first saw the episode, the thing that I thought, you get the impression that the thing the doctor needs to know is that she's pregnant. And the thing that she doesn't need to know is that he's going to die. And at the end, and if you're following closely enough in Almost People, is after we find out that it's Doctor that has gone off, or the real doctor has the fake shoes on, and everyone thinks that the real doctor is the Doctor, but the actual Doctor is the real doctor. There's a scene where Amy runs out of the room and he confronts her, and he's yelling at her, and she yells at him, and she tells him essentially that he's going to die because she thinks she's talking to the Doctor. Which is very interesting because she has now just told the doctor that he is going to die, which he probably shouldn't know. So there's this whole understanding of what the doctor now knows because Amy has told him inadvertently because she thought she was expressing it to someone else. And the fact that the silence essentially instructed her that she's going to tell him two very specific things, which she ends up telling him. One that is being important, and one is that he's not supposed to know. So it just raises so many questions. To bring it all back together in terms of River Song, Amy's baby, Eye Patch Lady, this white room, Rory, and everything else. And the big thing, and Rudy and Liz mentioned this, and I love the fact that I get to listen to their podcast after watching the episode and kind of respond to some of their thoughts. I don't like the fact that I have to wait to post these, but they talked a bit about the fact that, oh, bloody hell, what was I going to say? So many things going through my head. I try to think these out before I shoot them, but sometimes they just, they go. Anyways, maybe it'll come back to me. It's interesting to think about the direction everything's going to go at this point, whether River is Amy's daughter, or, you know, Amy actually having a baby, and the girl in the spacesuit, is that Amy? Is it actually Rory's baby? Is it the doctor's baby? Is it the TARDIS's baby? All the things. Oh, the misdirection. Yes, this is where I was going to go. That Stephen Moffat obviously clearly sets up one big reveal, but that reveal ends up not being the biggest reveal. We're going to go around a corner, so if I go out of screen, sorry. That the big reveal usually isn't the biggest reveal. Like, we all thought the big reveal in this episode was going to be learning about Amy's pregnancy, but the bigger reveal in the end is that Amy's a ganger. For crying out loud. Fracking ridiculous. So I think there's going to be some big things that happen at the end of A Good Man Goes to War, and where we pick back up in the fall, and even when we get to the season finale, whenever that is, you know, probably late winter. Moffat has a way of kind of going about and keeping us all on edge, thinking one thing and bringing in something else from left field. So I fully expect that to happen as we go forward. And that just opens up this whole new idea about where we are, when we are, what's happening, and how this all plays back to what I think is Amy in the crack in the wall. And I don't think we're done with that. And the implosion of the universe literally restarting. Though I think there's a little more credence now to River Song being Amy's daughter, for the reason that we went back and watched the end of season 5 at Amy and Rory's wedding. Why would River even be there? She has no purpose of being there other than if Amy did get pregnant, it was between the end of their wedding and after the Christmas special, before, you know, and they're on their honeymoon on the Christmas special. So River essentially wants to go back and see when she was conceived, or at least when Amy and Rory got married. So that, I think, and that was my roommate Jenny had that thought, and I think as much as I don't want River to be Amy's daughter, I think that might lend some credence to that whole string, because River being at their wedding is completely out of place. She has no reason other than at that point, just knowing who Amy and Rory are, because they've traveled together. But it gives it far more significance if she is Amy's daughter and has the capability of going back to that singular moment in time. But I think because it happens after the universe has been reinvented, that, you know, we're in a different parallel time stream, because Amy's parents are alive and around, which is very interesting. And when we meet Amy very young, she has no parents and she's living alone in her house, and no one seems to care that she's there all by herself. Sorry, the camera keeps slipping. And which leads credence to that worm in the Ultra Dimension, which, if you go back and watch season 5, the whole episode with the roommate where Matt Smith becomes the tenant in that guy's house, and them not knowing about the whole upstairs bedroom essentially not being there, being that spaceship cloaked. I think you can see where I'm going. So I really want to know your thoughts about speculating on where this is all going. I think the episode that's coming up, A Good Man Goes to War, which alludes to the description River gives to the person she kills and the reason she's in jail in the first place. Though apparently it's been pointed out that not only is the Doctor referred to as a good man very often, Rory is also referred to as a good man all the time. So that leaves the door open. Is Rory the guy Rivers kills? Is the Doctor the guy River kills? Is Rory the guy that's going to go to war? Is the Doctor the guy that's going to go to war? How are we going to get back to 1969 and 2011 and sum up when the Doctor actually apparently dies because of the Spacer Girl? It's all hurting my head a lot, and so I'm very, very excited and hoping to stay spoiler free for this Saturday's episode going into the mid-season break. So leave a comment, please subscribe if you haven't, and please no spoilers about stuff that's happened in Good Man Goes to War. And if you've had trouble staying spoiler free, I want to know about that too. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching all these videos. 100, it's pretty awesome, and we'll be back next week with more Doctor Who. Adios, button.